Coming up on Network Africa, Boko Haram has a new strategy according to the defense headquarters. They're now disguised as vigilantes. And the African community in the United Kingdom is starting to feel the pressure after voting to leave the EU. And later, we have the latest from Cairo on the repairs of crashed Egypt Air MS-804 recorders. This is Network Africa. Hello and welcome to the program. I am Adeshewa Josh. Two suspected Boko Haram suicide bombers have blown themselves up near Sulemanti Mosque in Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, in the northeast region of the country. The Borno State Police Command says that the suspects, strapped with improvised explosive devices, targeted a mosque in Sulemanti. According to the police command, the bombs, however, went off prematurely, killing the two suspects during the midnight Ramadan prayers. Spokesman of Borno Police Command, Isuku Victor, says that a team of Police Explosives Ordnance Department has been deployed to the scene. A civilian joint task force member says Sulemanti Ward and the Central Bank of Nigeria quarters south of the metropolis is porous with no military posts and patrols at the south flank. And we're still talking about the Boko Haram insurgency. The defense headquarters has revealed a new tactic being used by members of this sect. We understand that while the insurgents were fleeing Sambisa forest, they disguised as vigilantes and hunters in their bid to escape arrest from troops. Based on this new tactic, the Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Rabi Abubakar, is urging all members of the public to beware. That's because this tactic is one employed by terrorists not only to escape arrest, but to attack unsuspecting members of the public, as was the case in Adamawa. Members of the public are also advised to be security conscious and report promptly to security agencies any suspicious persons or group in their community, especially faces you haven't seen in a long time, people you cannot simply identify that they belong to your community. Let's talk about this a little further. Joining us from London is security and terrorism expert David Ojo. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much.
What do you make of this new tactic employed by Boko Haram to not only escape being captured, but also to inflict damage and attack the people?
I think we're facing new wars. You know, that's one of the things which we have to realize. And the way the wars are being fought, you know, by groups like Boko Haram is, you know, they have this faceless strategy where they infiltrate local communities, they infiltrate local groups, you know, and that's the ambivalence, you know, that, you know, groups like this are very, very much, you know, keen to copy what, you know, is going to be very advantageous for them in order for them to remain under the wraps. And what you have is that, you know, even when you have these local vigilante groups, you know, the ambivalence of having them is the fact that, you know, these groups, you know, may act as soldiers by day, and Boko Haram might infiltrate them by night and act as rebels by night. So we have seen an increase, you know, not just now. These are not new tactics, you know, because we had this sort of strategy being used by local military militia groups in Sierra Leone. The Kamajo warriors, you know, fighters were infiltrated. You know, you had the same thing in Iraq with the Mujahideen and Afghanistan. And then you still, you know, you have this sort of infiltration happening. So I think it's one of those strategies which Boko Haram has realized that, you know, the best way, you know, to fight, you know, a government that is visible and they that are invisible is for them to infiltrate, you know, the population and carry out their attacks, you know, and this is a very difficult strategy to fight against.
As you rightly mentioned, it is not a new tactic per se. It's just that it's become like the last resort for Boko Haram members. Then it does appear that more and more the military needs to continue, well, it does appear that they need to continue to rely on intelligence and information gathering. Is that the case?
One of the things that you find is the fact that, you know, there is no existing trust between the communities that are facing the peril from Boko Haram, and there is that fear for Boko Haram, because what is happening is, if you cannot guarantee the peace and security and liberty of the people, what would happen is, they would fear Boko Haram more than they trust the security architecture. So what the government, is facing at the moment is a situation whereby Boko Haram is using this tactic, to keep the people quiet, and it becomes very difficult for the people to speak to the authorities when they cannot be guaranteed their security and safety. So I think the essential thing is, for the government to be able to guarantee the security and safety of the people, but that is very difficult as well, because, as I said before, you don't have a list of members of Boko Haram, you don't have their faces. So anybody could be a member of Boko Haram today and they could be vigilante tomorrow, or a local hunter. So that's the difficulty that the government is facing at the moment.
So we've been asked, according to authorities there, to remain security conscious and be vigilant as members of the public. You have also said that fear is a major factor in terms of reporting what you're seeing to authorities. So how do we move forward from here, break the fear barrier, and then try as much as possible to trust the authorities to protect the community?
As I said, one of the most important elements that, of counterterrorism is that, Boko Haram would be living amongst the population. Yes, they live in Sambisa forest, but still yet, they have this link with the community. So the government has to develop a strategy where, they could give the people within those communities that Boko Haram lives in, an element of trust. Because, if you have those people living in those communities and it's an ungoverned space, they don't feel the presence of the authority and they do not feel that they are safe. They are bound to take the better option. So I think there has to be building of trust between the government security services and then regulating, the local militias, and not just regulating them, but also giving them an element of hope that, for the future, they would have a better place. If you don't do that, if you don't regulate the local militias and the hunters, and you just give them arms, one of these hunters may turn up to be a member of Boko Haram and then uses that arms against the security services. So the element of building trust and regulating the local militias is very important for a counter strategy.
Terrorism expert David Otto there for speaking to us on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's go on a break now. When we come back, we'll take a look at some of the stories. The African community in the United Kingdom is starting to feel the pressure after Britain voted to leave the EU. We have details for you in just a moment. Do stay with us.